television channels to Britain by early next year. They'll be broadcast directly by satellite to people's homes, and viewers will need a small satellite dish to receive them. The channels will offer round-the-clock entertainment, news and films, and there could be a fourth channel devoted entirely to sport. Mrs. Thatcher has welcomed the spread of television channels, but she told the TV companies today that if they didn't keep violence and pornography off the screens, the government might have to act to protect the young.
The presentation was appropriately astral. The video rockets, real smoke effects, almost too realistic as Mr. Murdoch outlined his plans.
We will be bringing, for the first time, real choice of viewing to the British.
At present, most homes receive 4 channels from a conventional transmitter. Cable television has proved expensive and slow to expand. Now a new generation of satellites needing small dishes is taking off. Over the next 2 years, at least 7 high-power satellites broadcasting directly to the home are due to be launched over Europe. They'll broadcast up to 100 channels in various languages. In Britain, the TV revolution lifts off in November with the launch of Astra. It's on this satellite that Mr. Murdoch will run his 3 or 4 new channels. The dish to receive the signal from the medium-powered satellite will be 24 inches wide and cost £199. By the end of next year, British Satellite Broadcasting will also beam 3 channels to British viewers. Because that satellite's high-powered, their dish need be only 12 inches wide and cost £200. The Astra dish can be adapted to receive BSB. The BSB dish won't receive Astra. Mr. Murdoch said he'd abide by the new Broadcasting Standards Council. So would he scrap a programme their chairman wanted banned?
Absolutely. I don't think I would in the area of news. I think that then you're venturing into freedom of speech. But if it's a matter of taste, I don't think he's going to worry about it. Our standards that we currently apply on Sky Channel, I think, are stronger than anything he is contemplating.
The channels announced today will be free to viewers and paid for by advertising. So it's the advertisers who'll ultimately decide if satellite delivers the goods. Sarah Cullen, ITN, Central London.
At the end of the first year of your first...
Mrs. Thatcher told an audience of media executives that she welcomed more TV channels. It didn't mean TV would go down market, but she did warn her audience they had to practice self-discipline over violence and pornography on the screen.
If you do not succeed, then we, as a matter of public policy, a phrase I rarely use because I'm constrained in what government does. That is my belief, to constrain the powers of government and to increase the powers of the people. But we simply must protect our young people from some of the violence and pornography that they would otherwise see.
Mrs. Thatcher will wait to see if the Broadcasting Standards Council can work out a voluntary code to offer that protection to children. But it's being made clear at Westminster that if she judges the voluntary code is failing, there'll be legislation to force the authorities into line.
The new channels will use a new satellite whose signals can be picked up with equipment costing just £200. Up to 16 different channels from various companies could soon be available via the same satellite.
The launch had elements of science fiction, but Rupert Murdoch is about to harness space-age technology to bring 3 new channels into thousands of British living rooms. Sky Television will offer a general entertainment and arts channel, a 24-hour news channel and a feature film channel. There are also plans for a sports channel. Amstrad is getting in on the act with a satellite dish the size of an umbrella to pick up the new programmes. Thousands will go on sale in high street shops early next year. Until now, satellite broadcasts used low-powered signals. To pick them up, you needed a large dish, 6 feet wide and costing at least £1,000. Murdoch's channels will use one of the new medium-powered satellites. You can pick up the signal with a much smaller dish, measuring just 2 feet across and costing around £200. In future, channels like the British Satellite Broadcasting Group will use new high-powered signals, which can be picked up by even smaller dishes, 1 foot across at about the same price. But British viewers will need to buy a special converter, and at the moment that's still at the prototype stage. When BSB start broadcasting, Mr. Murdoch may well have a head start that'll prove difficult to overtake. He says more channels will not mean declining standards, and he'll abide by the new Broadcasting Standards Authority. He believes viewers do want more choice.
I think they would love 100 channels to choose between. They wouldn't watch them all, of course. I think that is one of the things about modern civilization, that people should have freedom of choice. Their freedom of choice of what they read, let them have freedom of choice of what they view.
But the new era in broadcasting depends on the latest Ariane rocket, which will take the Astra satellite into orbit. Today, its launch was postponed for the third time because of technical problems.
Murdoch tries to steal a march on his satellite rivals by setting up 4 new television channels. They'll be beamed directly into subscribers' homes starting from the end of the year. Mr. Murdoch, who owns 5 British newspapers, is also signing a deal with the electronics firm Amstrad. They'll produce home satellite dishes to receive his pictures for around £200 each. Mr. Murdoch's venture depends on November's launch of the Astra satellite and will be financed by advertising. He's offering separate channels for round-the-clock news, entertainment and films, and there could be a 4th sports channel. Michael Crick reports on Rupert Murdoch's latest acquisition to his media empire.
The man may own more newspapers and more television stations than anyone on earth, but a Rupert Murdoch press conference is a rare thing. But today, the Australian-American media baron thought he had good reason to make a noise. By taking 4 English-language TV channels on the new Astra satellite to be launched this November, directed primarily at the UK, Mr. Murdoch has found a back door into British television. But the owner of 5 British newspapers sees the venture not as an extension of his large share of our media outlets, but as more competition.
Our record in this country has been to create competition and indeed to enable it. And we think we're doing the same thing now in television. We are seeing, I think, the dawn of an age of freedom for viewing and freedom for advertising.
It's the profits from News International's controversial print operation at Wapping which have provided the means for Mr. Murdoch to pursue media ambitions on 3 continents, in particular money from the mass circulation Sun and News of the World. Around the globe, Mr. Murdoch's News Corporation turned over £2.5 billion last year on its 47 newspapers, 48 magazines and 10 television stations. But his only existing impact on British television is through the 250,000 people who can get his current satellite station, Sky Channel, on cable television in Britain. But Sky Channel, broadcast across Europe for 5 years now and funded by advertising, lost £10 million last year. Murdoch media outlets are encouraged to fertilise each other. This journalist spends most of each day at Wapping before reading several short Times headline bulletins for Sky Channel each evening.
Good evening. The main headline...
And News International print journalist may help his new 24-hour Astra News channel. In America, Mr. Murdoch's TV company Fox is responsible for this programme called A Current Affair.
A current affair comes...
It broadcasts the pleadings of a woman about to die in a tower block fire.
I can't believe I'm going to pass out. We'll send an ambulance. Hurry!
Did anybody do anything finally?
Yeah, they found her body at 4:45 in the morning.
In Britain last year, Murdoch's Sun and News of the World accounted for 23 of the 50 complaints upheld by the Press Council.
I'm very proud of all my newspapers, and I'm sure I'm going to be proud of what we do on this channel. Thank you.
Is it going to be the same kind of standard of journalism as we see?
It's going to be totally, it'll be totally different. I've told you it'll be absolutely first class. Thank you.
But will anybody watch satellite television? At present, only 1,000 TV satellite dishes are sold in Britain every month. This company, Megasat in London, sells these dishes, which receive all satellite channels, and sells them for between £500 and £1,000. But installation costs can be between £100 and £400 on top, so it's expensive now. But today, Alan Sugar of Amstrad announced plans to storm the shops next year with new Astra dishes for £199, and he hopes for a £40 installation cost. But more important, Mr. Murdoch's Astra channels will use the existing PAL television system, which is compatible with people's existing TV sets. That is seen as a vital decision.
All colour television sets in Britain at the moment work on the PAL system. The satellite services already available work on the PAL system, and the grand plan was that there will be a completely new system used for satellites, which is the MAC system. That was developed by the IBA, and it's going to be used by the British satellite broadcasting people. Now, what Murdoch and Sky and Astra have come in and said, all that goes out of the window, we're going to stick with the existing PAL system. And that's wonderful in the short term. It means that existing equipment will be able to receive these programs. In the long term, it completely pulls the rug from under the plans to have new technology that will take us into the next century.
It makes life much more difficult for BSB, presumably.
I actually think it makes life incredibly difficult for BSB because they are committed. In fact, they are under duress from the British government that they must use the MAC system.
So, Mr. Murdoch's Astra channels seem to have a big advantage over his main satellite rivals. His Astra channels are launched this November. He uses the existing PAL system, which should save viewers trouble and cost, and the system will be financed in the medium term at least by advertising. BSB, on the other hand, won't go up until September next year. BSB is obliged to use the new technology DMAC, which will mean more expense for viewers. And viewers will have to pay for many BSB programmes. But Anthony Simmons-Gooding says his service will provide better quality.
Our dish is 30 centimetres, and we have a satellite which is 8 times as powerful as Astra's. And I'm quite convinced that when they get to it, many parts of the country will have to have a dish of a metre. And that's a whole new ball game of planning permission and cost.
Is it going to be possible for both the Astra system and the BSB to survive in this very competitive field?
Probably not. There are already 4 broadcast channels in the UK. There's almost certain to be a 5th. Astra carries 16 channels, of which perhaps 11, 12 might be aimed at the UK, and BSB carries 3. I can't really see that there's enough of a market to support 18 television channels.
So who do you think will win?
Well, I think the important thing is it's all going to be down to programming. One of the advantages of BSB is they're going to spend an awful lot on programming, but they're starting a year later.
So, 2 of the world's best-known entrepreneurs unite to usher Britain into the age of satellite television only a few months from now. They're providing between them programmes and satellite dishes. It now depends on the Ariane rocket, launched from French Guiana on November the 4th. And rockets have been known to fail.